Hey guys, Hot Rod Reverend here, back at it again today on the 3 Deuce intake, and glad that you joined us. I know it's been a little bit of a delay, but we want to talk today about the air horns and getting our floats installed, our needles and seats, and all of that. So just real quick on the floats, always test these when you're rebuilding a carburetor before you put it back inside that air horn or back inside that body. What I like to do, I like to get boiling water, pour it into a container, and then take the float and submerge it in the boiling water. Now, remember physical science back from years ago in high school. What will happen will be the air inside the float will heat up and expand. When the air expands, it tries to find a way out, of course. And if you have any holes at all, any seams that aren't sealed, that's going to show up as air bubbles in that little container of water. So submerge it for a minute or two and see if you had any air bubbles. No air bubbles, you're good, you're sealed up. So I've got 3 floats here that are all ready to go. Now when you think about setting a float, you always want to check your specs here. And I know in a hot rod application, you're going to be tinkering and toying with this a little bit because you got 3 carbs all going. But suffice to say, each kit most often will come with some type of cardboard element, some measuring device that you can use, just like this one here. Sometimes they're like a little piece of cardboard that has a ruler on it, but it'll have the specifications for you here. And you can tell by this that there's different specs for the Holley 94 depending on what size you have, and it can go from 1 11/32 to 1 5/16. What I'm going to try to do is just hit the middle of this, since I've got 3 of these, and probably just go for the 1 15/32 measure. So I am going to use that with my little ruler when we set up our floats in here. Now here's a good for instance. A lot of times they'll come with something like this, and you can tell what that reads right there is 1 32. So not to be silly with this, but you've got 32 lines there to help you gauge 11 30-seconds, 15 30-seconds. You can see I've made a mark here, but that's going to make it a whole lot easier when we set our float. Now we're not just looking at the setting for when the needle's closed. We're also going to look at the setting for when the needle's open. So you can see here how far it needs to hang down. There's a measurement there, and again, different Holley 94 models have different measurements that we're looking for. Now just to review so you can see what I've done, these are the secondary ear horns. This is the primary, of course. I have blocked off any kind of passageway that was left over from the original choke plates. I've left the choke plate on the center carb, the primary carb. I don't know if I'll use that. I may not need to, but at any rate, it's there if I need it. I've also just loosely installed this fitting here for the fuel inlet on each one of these. I won't tighten those and snug those down until we get the air horns all secure onto the bodies of the carburetors. So let's go ahead and flip this over. Now, what we've got here is our needle and seat. That's very important. I believe that you keep these sets together. When we install these, we're going to make sure that we take care of that when we're putting in our floats. Don't get those mismatched or mixed up. Now the way these floats ride in here, there's a little pin that's just going to slide through this boss here, and of course it'll just pivot, and we should be set to go. But for the most part, that's really all we need to do with the air horns right now, is just to get our float set and to get our needle and seats installed. All right, we've just basically just installed this and got it going, but instructions read to use the machine surface, right? And then you can tell where my mark is at there. And I really chose 14 30 seconds instead of 15. but you can tell that we need to go up a little bit. So what that means is we're going to take this off and we're going to bend that little tab right there out. All right, in this position, I'm going to bend it up. It says upside down. So, and we're going to get that measure as close as we can. And just real quick, you can do this while the float is sitting here on your air horn, but you want to be careful about that needle and seat. You don't want to put any pressure on that. I mean, I can take my screwdriver here, basically bend this a little bit down, but I want to make sure I don't put any pressure on that needle, and then see what we can do here to get this corrected. You're a little bit higher. Yeah, we're almost there. All right, I'm going to take the camera and kind of show you now that we are looking good here. So after bending the tang, we're right there where we need to be. And kind of just check both ends, and we are looking good. All right, so for the drop, just to compare the two, we know what's going on here. You're really, when you do these two measures, the drop and of course when it's closed, that's the space really that needle's open. So we're going really what would be 1 7/16, 14/32, right? If over here, we're going to go ahead and go 1 3/4 of an inch with the drop. All right, so we'll take a look at our drop here and try to hold this up for you. I got the camera right here, but you can tell where we're at right here. We're trying to go to 1 3/4, and we're pretty close. So let me make some adjustments. All right, so with bending that tang, we are right at 1 24/32. So that's 1 3/4 inch. So we're good. So we'll get all of these set the same way. All right, in my handy bin, I've got quite a few of the screws I need to. Dipping into my handy parts bin, I'll need to grab 15 of these screws to secure everything down here to the top of the fuel bowls. And we're going to go ahead and coat these with a little bit of white lithium grease. If you don't have that and you want to, you can use some silicone spray, but it makes it a whole lot easier to take these off and on when you're fooling with these and you're going to rejet and stuff. I like using something to make these a non-stick gasket. Couple of tips here as you get these back together. Once you get your needle and seat installed and your float, never set this down on the table like that or the workbench. Just flip this upside down. You don't want to get any undue pressure on that needle and seat, especially when it has a Viton tip. Secondly, when we put these on here, I'll go ahead and see my gasket's in place. Remember that this is not a gasket that is sensitive as far as vacuum seal or all of that. We don't need to torque this down. It's good to have the surfaces flat as possible, but for the most part, this is kind of overly simplistic. You don't need to go in some kind of a weird torque sequence here. You just need to make sure it's secure. Understand that this right here is actually vented. You can see there's a hole right there, and the fuel bowl is vented to the air. Some of you guys that run ethanol and you get all torqued up about, or ethanol in your fuel, you get all torqued up about the fuel bowls being empty. Well, this is why. That alcohol evaporates and doesn't work too well with carburetors. So, at any rate, we'll get this installed. While I was on a vacation, we did have a package arrive. We're going to open this up and see how these air cleaners fit. Real small, of course. Now, there's a lot of debate over air cleaners for 3 deuces, Stromberg or Holley 94s, or which ones flow better. From what I could tell, although the helmet variety and louvered variety look really cool, the ones that flow the best are the one that's open to the ones that flow the best are the ones that are open on the side. So anyway, let's get this out and take a look at it. Now, these are obviously just the cheap ones here that kind of Speedway sells. I'll have a link in the description. Not much to this, but the ones I did buy, these are washable air cleaners. Now, if you have a Stromberg, you'll probably need the plastic sleeve. I don't know exactly what the width is there. These things just kind of pop out. Just see here real quick. Yeah, just kind of slide out of here. One of the things these boogers will have, they'll have a little set screw in there. You got your stud, wing nut. But basically that just pops over like so. Probably leave it to this side. Put our stud on. And there we go. These were not that expensive. I've got a stainless washer I may end up using on this. But it's going to look pretty good, I think. I've decided to upgrade it a bit. I went ahead and tapped for 632. And you can probably see their threads in that hole, center of the screen. And that'd be just a whole lot better than just getting a sheet metal screw. Especially since that boss is a little thick. Not quite a 1/4 inch, but getting close. And you can tell these just come smooth, and it's basically a sheet metal screw that goes through there, but just as soon have something a little bit better. Okay, we got set screws. We got set screws in here, and we're ready to go. One thing I will say about these are a very tight fit. You can tell I've got a couple of nicks I need to file down because it is almost an interference fit. I mean, it's really, really close. So any kind of nicks you have on your air horn here, you need to get those off, or this piece here will just not snug down over it. But so far, so good. All right, fellas, I got those on there, and these I think are going to be pretty good. I'm happier that they fit tightly than loosely, that's for sure. Next installment, what we'll do, we'll kind of walk you through what we're doing with our fuel log, and I got some fittings here for this. I'm kind of trying to figure this out if I'm going to maybe make a bracket off of this mount on the Offenhauser intake that will hold this fuel log. Maybe it's something I can weld up out of sheet metal. I don't want to get in the way of my linkage, of course, but that may be the best way to handle this. Come up top and then over with all 3 of those. And of course, fuel lead from the front. So we'll try to figure this out and take a look at it next installment. And then of course too, we'll also get into what we're doing with our thermostat housing, which I'm going to go ahead and put our thermostat housing on first. And I'm going to talk to you about thermostats and the Y-block. Well, guys, that's a wrap on the 3 Deuce intake. So we are going to keep going here. Hopefully the next few weeks I can pull the current Holley 4000 off, get this intake manifold installed. The weight of this with the carburetors is pretty much what a bare ECZ 9425B, the B intake for the Y block, weighs, the cast iron intake. So I don't think it'll be a big issue to put this on just as it sits with the thermostat housing installed. Secondly, some of you guys have been asking about the Y block build. We're still on that. Tim is up at Bonneville as we speak today, as I record this video today. Tim's up racing at Bonneville, and hopefully I'll be able to have some coverage for you of that in the coming weeks and post some content about what's going on with the Y block build, also with Tim's race up at Bonneville and the Salt Flats. So looking forward to a whole lot more here on the Hot Rod Reverend channel. God bless you. Have a good day.